Good. Well, by the time this hits, it's going to be evening to my family and my friends and my adversaries and everybody. Oh, look at my. Oh, look at that. My reading glasses. Hey, there we go. Yeah. Now I'm ready for business. Yeah. Got quite a show for you today. I've been asked many times because people know um, about a certain video on someone's channel where someone called in and made a profile of the drug business. um, I'm going to go over that again, and this time I'm going to change it a little bit, make it a little easier, and go from there. I do have a video to share. That's yeah, we're going to tear that thing apart. That's what we're going to do. But when it comes to, well, I wanted to say to this will come up as live. It's not live. It is pre-recorded, even though it's what you call scheduled for a certain time to be released. It will come up and it will say live, but it's not live, and that's why I don't say hello to this person, that person chat, but I do go into the chat with you. Um, because I just think it must look weird because I'm not saying hi to anybody. That makes me feel weird. I should say hi to my subs and people that come in, you know. Yeah. So, but I will be in the chat here. Anyway, so I explained that. Kings and queens and guillotines. Remember that song? Aerosmith. um, if I could have got the rights to that, I would have played that for this video. But anyway, so you have this king. And let's say that he lives. There's different kings. There's kings in different countries, and there's kings in this country, and they talk. They talk, and they do business together. They talk on like burner phones. Um, they use the internet, secret little places. There's always a queen, and it could be the king's wife, daughter, whoever. Whoever, it could be anybody, the queen. Anyway, then they have their bishops that surround them, and these are the people that protect that king. And they're the ones that talk. Let's say we're talking about an American king. They're the ones that talk. They're the ones that get the money. The king doesn't touch anything ever. So they're hard to nail. I knew one king that, and they'll be liked by the community, okay? They'll be loved by the community. They do things for the community. They'll own businesses. They'll own housing. They'll things like hotels and restaurants and bars, clubs, things like that. The hotel is because they do business there. They have their. I'm going to call them this time. I'm calling them rooks, okay? Because the ponds here in America are the customers. That's the way I'm going to word it this time because this is all metaphors, So you have these bishops, and they will control all the rooks. Rooks get money. The rooks are the ones that are dealing directly with the ponds, supplying them with product. And the rooks hand the money over to the bishops, and the bishops get the money to the king, but the money gets washed. That's why they own businesses, and the businesses might not exactly be in. There's going to be multiple, so they will have them scattered through the area in different towns sometimes. But they use in businesses to wash the money, to launder it. You know what I'm saying? To wash it, so it's clean, so it looks like they're making it in another business. Knights, you don't want to meet the knights. You don't want to meet the knights at all. They're the assassins. They're the ones that take care of business. They're the ones that, and they never go around the king. They have their own way to message and to put out orders. And that's kind of how it works. So when you're looking, I was telling you about this this one king, and the town loved him. He even bought them. It was a small town. He even bought them a police car. He built an airport for the town, for the small planes. Isn't that something? And you know what was going on with the airport. But this is what they do. And that's kind of how it works. And I know one line goes from, and I said this in a phone call, it goes from San Diego up the West Coast, up to through Canada and to Alaska. I'm not going to say any names, but they're there. They're there in Moscow, Pullman. That's a hub. That's a hub, and it's fairly close to a port, so they can be doing import-export business also. So anyway, I wanted to explain that a little bit and how that kind of operates. There's many rooks, and they get replaced real fast. I mean, they got to get the money from the ponds if it's on a front basis, you know. People are always fronting drugs, you know what I mean? It's a big part. I know this one that, you know, still has almost $30,000 on the books from when he was in business. So people do front. If they get behind, you know, that's not a good thing. The rooks will pressure them. But if they get too far behind, or they do something real stupid, then a knight is called in. And they're professional. And that's how it works. And I know this firsthand. So anyway, I wanted to go through that again. I also want to go through a video. Okay, well, Sarge is going to be on the phone. Well, hello, Sarge. You're part of my show. How's that? I'm recording right now, bro. Just, oh, can you? Yeah, I don't know. I'm the creator, whatever. Sure. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. No. Christ. All right, dude. I'll call you back after I'm done with the show, though. Okay. And I think Rory's changing it for tomorrow night. I do believe. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody. All right, Sergeant, man. I'll talk to you later, bro. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, back to this. I'm gonna share the screen and we're gonna go through this video. Okay. No, is this the one? I hope it didn't change on me here. No, this is the one. I'm glad I looked before I did this here. There we go. And here we are. Let's listen. This is from News Nation. All right. This is from News Nation. And this has been a while ago. So it's going to be very interesting what they say because, I mean, this was, let's see. Oh, yeah. Now it's not showing me. 8 months ago. So this is before they found Kohlberger. This is before any of that. It's 8 months ago. It's very interesting when I watched this last night. And I just have to share this. So let's go.
Tonight, it only takes one moment, 1 minute, one night for lives to be turned upside down.
We lost 4 beautiful souls.
The hardest part, we cannot change the outcome.
For a quiet college campus to become a crime scene.
This could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
What do you say to the students who are scared?
I tell them I'm scared too.
And for a killer to seemingly vanish in the middle of the night.
There is a threat out there still.
It's all hands on deck for investigators, racing to retrace steps, comb through evidence, and stop this case from going cold.
They could break open any time.
Because it only takes one clue, one slip up, one tip.
Somebody somewhere has information about this case.
To end the nightmare.
We owe this to these young kids.
Yes, we do.
Idaho Murder Mystery, a News Nation special report, starts right now. Good evening, I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho, for this News Nation special report. 3 weeks ago, the unthinkable happened in this house behind me. 4 university students brutally murdered here. Their killer not only is still on the run, but still all of this remains a mystery 3 weeks later. And we have breaking news tonight. New details that we have just confirmed. News Nation is learning that Kaylee Gonsalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injury.
Now, did you hear that? They confirmed. Okay. So this is where this came from. All right. This is where this came from. So that has been confirmed.
Which may end up being a very, very important piece of evidence when it comes to determining who the target was in this attack. I have learned Kaylee and Maddie were in an upstairs room in the house. So the killer had to go specifically upstairs to get to them. And again, that new information just confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were, quote, significantly more brutal. That is new information that we are going to analyze coming up over the next hour. All of this really is a nightmare for this town, a nightmare that they just cannot wake up from. Over the next hour, we are going to be diving into all of the details of this case, learning more about the victims and their families, trying to make sense of this unimaginable loss here in Idaho. We're going to go take you around the crime scene, show you what it looks like, as well as an exclusive look at the Idaho State Crime Lab. And we're going to remain focused throughout all of this on the victims and their family. To try and understand how we got to this point, first, we go back to the beginning. Moscow, Idaho, a beautiful, quiet college town near the border with Washington State, blanketed.
And this is the kind of town the kings love, because they can set up shop in a college town where the rooks can control the pawns, and that they do. So I'm just wanting you to understand what's going on there.
In snow this time of year, and home to the University of Idaho, with 11,000 students who have almost never had a reason not to feel safe.
The worst crimes we see in town involve things like bike theft or cars getting keyed or something like that. We're a nice little artsy town that provides a great quality of life to a lot of people.
But what happened in the early morning hours of November 13th has shaken this community like never before.
I'm scared too. This is a worrying time, but we also have the ability to understand that this is just another example that crime happens, and it can happen anywhere.
Fear, college community still in shock following the brutal stabbings of 4 of their students. So many asking, how did this happen? We start on the evening of Saturday, November 12th. Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, where many college students spend their Saturday nights. At this local bar, the Corner Club on North Main Street in downtown Moscow. According to local law enforcement, the two were at the bar between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison moved over to a local food truck. You can see them here on surveillance video from the Grub Truck down the street on South Main Street. News Nation has confirmed the 2 women used a private party for a ride home from downtown to their home on King Road. The home is about a mile and a half, or about a 6-minute drive from the food truck. They got home around 1:56 a.m., according to digital evidence collected by investigators. Investigators also say Kaylee and Madison made several calls to an ex-boyfriend of one of the girls 7 times, raising some eyebrows. That person has now been cleared, according to law enforcement. Kaylee Gonsalves' sister spoke with News Nation's Chris Cuomo.
There's no boy problem.
You know, why did they clear him so fast? That is just totally unbelievable.
There's no threat. There's no high-risk lifestyle that could have indicated this. It has taken all of us completely by shock, and we...
But they're not right there. I'm sorry, they just, I don't think they know. You know what I mean? I don't think they know everything that was going on. There was a lot of things going on in that house, in my opinion.
have absolutely no ideas.
Another roommate, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were also out the night of November 12th. Investigators confirmed Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on the University of Idaho campus. Here's where things get a little shaky. Law enforcement confirms with News Nation, Ethan and Xana were seen at the fraternity house around 9 p.m. They reportedly made it back home around 1:45 a.m.
1:45 a.m. Now, is that what we all remember?
Investigators are still trying to piece together what happened between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m.
Figure out who they were with, what that was going on, maybe any routes or paths that they took to end up going home, those types of things. Potentially, that is critical to the investigation.
As for the two surviving roommates, they were also out on the night of November 12th in the Moscow community. They returned home by 1 a.m. The two surviving roommates did not wake up until later in the morning on November 13th. That is when they called other friends to the house because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones inside the residence. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before Moscow police arrived at the home. Officers discovered Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan dead inside the residence on the second and third floors of the home, suffering from stab wounds.
It was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab poor people to death.
Pretty angry. Pretty angry. It had to have been somebody pretty angry. I have to ask myself, what was BK's, if it's him, what was he so angry about? I mean, and if you remember when this first came out, it was a crime of passion. And then that changed real fast. Why did it change so fast? I think I know.
So many questions unanswered. Authorities remaining tight-lipped, saying there are many details still simply don't know. Do you know inside the house whether the victims' doors were locked into their individual rooms?
I don't know that.
Do you know were any messages left behind in the house, like almost symbols from the killer? Because sometimes in other cases, you know, if it was like a fetish killing, they would leave something on the body or write something on the wall. Is there anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
While authorities remain tight-lipped, we are learning other details from the families of the victims. At the vigil on campus Wednesday night, Kaylee's father gave insight into how close his daughter and Madison were discovered, saying the two were found together in the same bed. Earlier this week, there was confusion when law enforcement said there was a miscommunication between police and the county prosecutor about whether this was a targeted attack or not.
My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence. That's all that they can offer at this point.
The latest from police is they do think the murders were targeted, but police say they have not concluded if the target was the house or one of the occupants. Investigators have also confirmed a sixth person on the list.
What do they mean by that? What do they mean by that? They can't tell if the house was targeted. Was the house stabbed? Was the... you know, come on. The people got it. Why would they be angry at the house? That just doesn't make sense to me. It's them going to change the narrative.
Police was not in the home at the time of the murders. And the roommates and friends who lived in this house behind me were so many things to so many people. Jokesters, a fashionista, some prolific photographers. They were really just typical college kids preparing to take on the world.
Guys, can anybody drive me class?
Their friendships so deep.
Didn't even do their chores today. I'm just gonna do it.
The roommates could rock spot-on impressions of one another.
It's 8. Gotta go. Taste club. Oh, taste club.
Two of the young women grew up together. Madison Mogan, Maddie from Coeur d'Alene, and best friend Kaylee Gonzalez from nearby Rathdrum, Idaho. Roommate Xana Kernodle went to high school close by in Post Falls, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin from out of state, Mount Vernon, Washington, all coming together at the University of Idaho, the tiny college town of Moscow.
Community is reacting with grief, concern. These were 4 very popular people on campus.
Emotions raw at a community vigil on campus Wednesday, including Ethan Chapin's mother.
My name is Stacy Chapin. I'm Ethan's mom.
Her 20-year-old coming to the university this fall with his brother and sister. Triplets, they were inseparable. Ethan's last day spent accompanying Sister Maisie to her sorority formal. Yet the freshman was usually with his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, a junior studying marketing and reveling in the pair's growing relationship. A proud post of Mouse and Chef, a playful version of Ratatouille.
And I want people to take this personally because she was everyone's daughter.
Kaylee Gonzalez's sister talking to News Nation's Chris Cuomo about her younger sister. Kaylee was finishing her senior year strong, with her best friend, Maddie Mogan, always at her side.
So then they went to high school together. Then they started looking at colleges. They came here together.
From tweens to Lake City High, teachers say the 2 girls never parted. Roommates at the University of Idaho, Maddie did join a different sorority, and the live music lover showed off her marketing skills, running the social media account at the Mad Greek restaurant where she worked.
And in the end, they died together in the same room, in the same bed.
I think all the people working on trying to figure this out, and it really means a lot.
Artsy and funky Moscow, Idaho, the perfect backdrop for the college journey.
Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but like, what would you guys do in my situation?
The home on King Road, which once hosted Forever Friends, now bears visible scars of the unthinkable. 4 young lives taken, who, as shown on Xana's high school graduation cap, had their sights set on giving the world so much more.
Make sure that you spend as much time as possible with those people because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
Very true.
It's just so heartbreaking what these families are going through. I had the chance to sit down with the Gonzalez family in Kaylee's home. Their loss, it is so heavy, and they have been vocal about their relentless search for justice and frustrations with the investigation. Here's part 1 of our conversation.
You know, she was hurt so bad that she was not able to recover. That is just terrible.
Oh, it's okay.
It's terrible. I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't.
Somebody, in my opinion, very close to them. And I think they really need to stop and throw everything they've thought about and everything they're being told and start listening elsewhere. You know, I don't like saying that, but I mean, we've done a lot of digging. And they need to relook at it.
Sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios. And just, I want to know, but then there's stuff obviously you don't want to know, you know, but
you just cry.
I think I want to know it all, and
You're okay.
I just don't understand why. How somebody can take somebody, four of them. It wasn't just my girl. Just so savagely.
Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, you know, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, you know, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that she knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And
I wonder who she's talking about there. Maybe what they say to the media after this doesn't exactly match what they are actually thinking, if you get my point.
yeah,
Share the strong alibi.
just really fast.
If you can dismiss,
an hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack, Kaylee's boyfriend, and, we still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking through this ambiguity that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
You've mentioned before that you didn't want to have a...
In my opinion, everybody's got to be on the books. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to be on the books. They're not victims until they're proven victims. Everybody's got to be on the books in an investigation. Do you agree with me on that? Post it down in the comments if you agree that everybody should be on the table. Because what that causes, if they're not, it's getting the wrong person. This case drives me absolutely bananas.
Funeral right now because the killer's still out there. Is that something that you're still thinking about? Are you nervous at all? I mean, because in Moscow, we talked to students. People are really nervous there.
They should be.
Yeah.
This targeted to me, it seems behavior based. That's why I don't like it, and it kind of pits the parents against each other. So I don't like that. I just told some of the other parents today that, if your daughter is no ill will from me, man. To me, if you go have a couple beers or go out and hang out with your friends and then come home and go to bed, if that's your target, then I think we all do that. I think we all come home and go to our beds.
it's all target.
Yeah. So
it's kind of a bad word then. It doesn't really make sense in some ways.
Exactly.
Even the prosecutor told me that.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was kind of a weird word to choose.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did, let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what comes. I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing anything to target me. And I'm like, well, if targeting's just going to bed with your friends.
So maybe that was just a way to calm people down?
I feel like it was strategic.
Yeah.
It was a strategic way to keep people from hitting the door, transferring out, and turning that place into a ghost town.
You never think you're going to lose your little sister.
Yeah.
Ever. You never think you're going to have to bury your daughter.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's nothing compared to the pain that I feel.
Yeah.
I just really feel their pain, especially having a son that was murdered. I know that pain that she's feeling, and it's awful. It's just totally awful. I don't know if I could have done what they're doing right now, being on TV like that. I don't know.
And I don't know. It's several things. It's her age. It's how it happened.
So life.
Why it happened. Who did this to her?
Just graduated.
Who did this to her and her friends? The fact that she was with her best friend. Since they were little girls.
That family tonight is so heartbroken. I've been in touch with them. It's literally unimaginable to think about what they are going through, but they are so determined to find this killer, and they say they are going to keep the pressure on the police until that happens. Okay, coming up, we're going to talk more about that breaking news that we learned about just tonight about the condition of the bodies. We are live tonight from Moscow, Idaho. Up next, Xana's mom breaks her silence for the first time.
We need more answers.
And internet.
Yeah, we do, Zana's mom. We need more answers. Do you have a few? That's my question.
Sleuths are on the case.
And this is my theory on like multiple parts of the case, okay?
But when does it help the investigation and when does it go too far? I'm Brian Entin, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight. The murder mystery has reignited the murder here. The online sleuthing community who gained notoriety during the search for Gabby Petito in 2021. We are talking about the armchair detectives, people who sift through social media looking for any possible clue. And in the vacuum of information from Moscow police, their voices are louder than ever. Here's News the Nation's Ashley Banfield.
What we know is that 6 missed calls were made from Kaylee to Jack's phone, her ex-boyfriend.
From the start, amateur investigators shared their theories on the Moscow, Idaho quadruple murders. The case has gripped the nation. People are craving as much information as possible, trying to put the pieces together themselves.
I'm going to talk about the slayings in Moscow, Idaho.
I'm wondering if it was a friend, not one of the roommates.
This is just as pretty much everybody talking about this case, pure speculation.
Partly fueled by a lack of information from the police.
Everybody has an opinion and they want to come out and say it. And so what that does is that detracts from the public's ability to trust the information that's out there.
Police have...
I'll tell you what, though. The online sleuths have dug a lot of information that is good information. And they need to look at this. And there's more coming out every day. And I'm telling you right now, there's going to be something that goes the biggest boom of them all. And it's not that far away. Just letting you know.
Always had to work around rumors. They sift through leads, discarding the hoaxes and the hearsay to try to get to the credible tips. But the sheer volume of tips in this case could take a toll on police resources. But they could also crack the case. Nearly 500 digital media tips have come in to an FBI page dedicated to the case. The Moscow police are on rumor control, both on their website and during their news conferences. Often, the rumors get started on social media.
Okay, I have no qualifications to be speaking on the Idaho murders other than the fact that I just have been keeping up with them. And this is my theory on multiple parts of the case, okay?
Social media sites seizing the moment, setting algorithms to gain traction on the Idaho case. TikTok posts with the hashtag Idaho Murders have more than 90 million views. Reddit forums with 27,000 members, and private Facebook groups, each with tens of thousands of people, are all talking about the Idaho murders and are ripe with wild speculation, many delving into Kaylee, Xana, Madison, and Ethan's own social media accounts. But these crowdsourced investigations can also ruin lives as they track down so-called suspects on their own. First, it was the young man in the hoodie seen at the food truck in a video that surfaced days after the murders. Police were flooded.
Yeah, there's more on this guy that we all have. So, who do you trust? The main media that's pushing a narrative, or the true crime community. I'll tell you what, I'll trust the true crime community, at least some of them. We don't need any dots. We don't need any of that stuff. And it's, should have never gone down that road. And people are crazy out there. I mean, they're crazy to even do something like that. It's just beyond comprehension. I mean, this is about 4 beautiful kids that were unalived by anger. A lot of anger. They need to reinvestigate this case. That's all I'm saying.
With questions about who he was.
I think a lot of people were curious about that person. We were able to identify him.
Police have since cleared that man, but online sleuths soon turned their attention to a new suspect, a neighbor of the victims named Jeremy Reagan. He's a third-year law
That's been a
student
while ago.
at the University of Idaho and gave a TV interview about the comings and goings at the house where the kids were murdered. He admits that he'd given a nervous smile while talking about the crime. Some viewers took issue and made him a target. Soon he moved from target to suspect, and it was open season on the internet.
People online have just been ruthless. They went through and gone through all of my social media history over the past decade, partly because of all the reports that the people had sent in about me and the interview I did.
Reagan has spoken with the police and even volunteered his DNA. But when he didn't hear back from the officers, he simply went to the station himself and gave police a sample. But as amateur investigators continue to dig deep into his personal life, contacting his friends and his family, Jeremy is now so concerned that he carries a pistol for protection. Amateur detectives have had some success before. During the Gabby Petito case, social media hashtags exploded with billions of views. It was social media users that put many of the pieces together and gave police strong clues as to where to look. Back in Moscow, Idaho, with every day.
And that's going to be the same with this case. It's going to be the true crime community that breaks this case open. And I think that's going to happen fairly soon.
The 4 murders go unsolved. The online investigative community is sure to grow, each wanting to be the cyber sleuth that unlocks the mystery and solves the crime. But at what cost to the professional investigators and to the public?
And Ashley Banfield joins me now. Ashley, you have been on this story since the very beginning. You've been doing it every single night on your show. We know with the Gabby Petito case, the online sleuths really had an impact, helped solve what happened. Do you think that could happen in this case?
So the reality is, Brian, that every police officer will tell you when trying to solve a case, there is no detail that is too small. And they ask the public to bring forth any details because sometimes that minute detail can be the linchpin that opens up an entire other set of facts. Well, I don't know how many total officers have eyes on this, but, you know, it's upwards of maybe somewhere below 100. And with the online community, they may be able to triangulate some details between photos that may go missed by the detectives on the case. So in one circumstance, it is highly effective to have that many more eyes that could point out something that's critical to the case. But as we just heard, it can also be detrimental, Brian, to Jeremy Reagan and people like him who all of a sudden become targets for attacks. And those attacks can be relentless. I will also say this, Brian, it is not as though an online community hasn't had incredible success before. You mentioned Gabby Petito. There was also a serial killer in Canada that the online community found before the police found him, and the police ignored them. So there are some lessons to be learned from that, and there are some things the community can actually help with in terms of investigation.
And you mentioned Jeremy. I saw him on your show the other night. He actually lives right down the way here. I can see his apartment from where I'm standing. You can't help but feel bad for that guy. I heard him on your show say that he actually went to the police station to give up his own DNA just because he wanted to clear his name. All right, Ashley, don't go anywhere because we are going to talk to you about this breaking news that we talked about at the top of the show, the new revelations that we have confirmed about the conditions of the bodies what that might mean in terms of who was targeted. We're going to get to that coming up right after this break. We are live from Moscow, Idaho tonight. Still ahead, a confounding crime scene. How did a killer seemingly go in and out of the house without a trace? And reality is not always what you see on TV.
We call it the CSI effect, that some people think, well, we should be able to do this.
Our exclusive look inside the Idaho State Crime Lab. I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight, where we continue to look into the murders that happened in the house behind me. 4 innocent college students now 3 weeks ago. Still no significant developments, still no named suspect, still no named persons of interest. I want to bring back in Ashley Banfield. And Ashley, I've been looking forward to this because I want to talk to you about this new information that we confirmed just before the special today. The new information is that Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries were significantly more brutal. That is what I can say. Significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries. What do you make of that new piece of information, Ashley?
Well, it's astounding, for one, because this is the first time, Brian, that you've been able to get the kind of information that helps us to perhaps try to figure out why this happened. Not saying this is definitive, but it certainly is one additional clue as to whether perhaps Kaylee might have been the target. But you got more information that makes it almost more complicated, and that is where the girls were found. So walk us through what you discovered today, because many of us didn't know which room when Kaylee's father said they were found in the same room and in the same bed.
Yeah, let me show you, Ashley. I want to take you up the hill here and get you oriented. This is the front of the house. There's now private security out front. And oh my, because it's going and it's very, very slippery. But we're going to walk you up to the back of the house. No windows on the side of the house. You've got the front door obviously on the front, which we know has the coded lock. On the back of the house, though, is where the bedrooms are. Confirmed that Kate injuries.
Brian, I think we just lost your mic, and I'm not sure. There, no, you're back. You're back. Can you just repeat what you said in the last 10 seconds? Your mic went dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was explaining that we confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were more significantly brutal than Maddie's. We've also confirmed that they were on the 3rd floor. I'm going to have Mo show you. 3rd floor here, where not easy access. You've got the balcony. There's a slider. You can't easily jump up there. So what this has us wondering, Ashley, and I want you to kind of walk through this with me. If Kaylee's injuries were the most severe up on the 3rd floor, and there's no way out of the 3rd floor, would that mean the killer specifically targeted the 3rd floor? Because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the killer go up to a floor where there would not be an easy exit for him? What do you make of that, Ashley?
Well, it's significant in that we still don't know where the killings began. Did they begin on the 2nd floor where Xana Kernodle's room was? And of course, Ethan had been staying over that night. And we now know that that room was the room on the far side of the house. So not the side of the house that you're on right now, on the other side of the house at the front of the house. That's Xana and Ethan's. And then did they progress to the 3rd floor? And while your mic was cutting out, I think the key piece of information that the audience couldn't hear was which room upstairs on the 3rd floor the girls were actually found in. That before now, we only knew they were found together, but we didn't know in Maddie's room or in Kaylee's room. And so as we look at the 3rd floor map right there, bedroom number E, or bedroom E, is Maddie's bedroom, and it looks out the back of the house. And bedroom F is Kaylee's bedroom, and it looks out the front, but also the back where the slider is. So what did you discover about which room, Maddie's room on the left or Kaylee's room on the right?
That's right. We confirmed that they were in Maddie's room, which is also interesting. That's something that we did not know. So Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal, but they were sleeping together in Maddie's room. So that helps put the puzzle together. There's also something new that helped put the puzzle together, and it was on your show. It was an exclusive interview you had on your show Friday night with Xana's mother. We had never heard from her before. She called into your show. I want to play what she said, and then we can talk about it on the other side, Ashley.
Her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
You said her father mentioned to you that they had replaced the lock?
Yes, that he had fixed it or something. But yeah, he said that he had fixed it the week before, just to make sure.
The week before.
Yeah. I do not think it was the house that was targeted. I believe wholeheartedly that it was those kids who were targeted. They weren't just acquaintances. These kids were like best friends. They practically were family. These kids were tight knit. They were good friends. They were like family. They were around each other constantly. They did everything together. How could it not be a planned thing? How could it not have been targeted?
Voice of Xana's mom here?
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to ask you actually two significant things that stood out to me during that interview. Number one, what she said about the door locks. Number two, that she feels that, I think she put it, these kids were targeted. Talk to me about why those two things. I mean, they're new, and what do they mean?
Critical. And I just wanted to make sure that our viewers knew that was the voice of Xana's mom. She wasn't on video because she's so distraught. That was just her voice that we heard. But she said that the locks had been worked on by Steve, or rather by Jeff Kernodle, Xana's dad, just the weekend before. She couldn't confirm whether the lock that he had fixed was on Xana's room or whether it was a lock to the outside of the house. But I did say, did the rooms have individual locks? And she believed that Xana's room did have a lock. So very, very significant, because we've been trying to figure out, and there's a picture right there on the screen on the left-hand side, is what one of the rooms in the house used to have in it, a coded lock to get into an individual bedroom, and that each bedroom had a coded lock. That was 3 years ago, and we're not sure if each bedroom still has a coded lock. But it's critical because we've tried to figure out, how did the killer get in to a locked bedroom, and then how did the door perhaps get locked on the way out so that the roommates couldn't get in and thought someone was passed out on the other side? That's critical. But I also think it's very critical that she thinks that the target was the kids, not the home, and that it was someone they knew and trusted. And then one more thing, Brian, about the fact that the girls were found in Maddie's room and not Kaylee's room. I think it's important for our viewers to know that Kaylee was in the process of moving out. So it's possible that many of her things were scattered all over the bed, or the bed was in pieces or had no bedding, and that's why she might have been in her best friend's room. But if the killer went into Maddie's room and yet Kaylee had more injuries, and it's dark, it's the middle of the night, this complicates things even more. Because if Kaylee was the target, then how would the killer know which one of the girls that was in Maddie's room if they were sleeping? Because they look a lot alike, and in the dark, it would be very tricky to tell. And certainly it wasn't Kaylee's room. So very, very big find that you've discovered, but even more complicating.
Yeah, certainly some big developments tonight that really help us piece together the story. Ashley, I know you've been covering this every single night on your show. You and I have been on the phone late at night discussing all of this, and we'll continue to do the same thing next week. Ashley, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
You bet.
Okay, we've still got a lot more to come. We are live in Moscow, Idaho tonight. A News Nation exclusive, a look inside the crime lab system that handles all homicides in Idaho, as we dig into the physical evidence the killer might have left behind, plus unimaginable loss. A lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true. And new information from a family taking justice into their own hands. We have been outside this crime scene for a week now, and there are a lot of questions about the evidence inside and what actually happens to it. And just last night, we were standing in the spot. We're pretty much here all the time for the most part. We saw detectives walking out with brown bags in their hands, but we still don't know exactly what was inside. It was an interesting development, though. There were some very, very large bags, and it seemed like they went in to gather some kind of evidence and then came out about an hour later. Idaho State Police Forensic Services, they're poring over what has been taken from this scene. They've been in the home multiple times. News Nation got an exclusive look at the state crime lab. Alex Capriello joins me live now. Alex, you know, there's so much frustration among the community. So many people are wanting answers quickly because, you know, you see the TV shows. They think that they can get these results fast, but it seems like it really does take quite a bit of time.
Right, it does. That's exactly what we learned from the Idaho State Crime Lab. The fact of the matter is that this is an incredibly complex crime scene. And obviously, with the killer still on the loose, every bit of evidence is crucial to try to crack this case open.
The knife, the incredible amount of blood, and the complexity of a bustling home with plenty of visitors. The forensics team is on a case like few others.
It's so very complex. We're not talking about a person that just randomly walks up on the street and stabs somebody and walks away. We're talking about 4 individuals here.
Forensics professor and Body Bags podcast host Joseph Scott Morgan also taking note of how the murderer slipped into the home on Moscow's Kings Road. No broken windows, no broken doors.
And for the investigators, that's a big piece of information. It goes from, if you're looking at a potential suspect, what level of familiarity did they have with this environment? Did they feel comfortable in it? Did they know their way around? Would they say, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go in the bottom. Keep in mind, the 2 people that live downstairs, they didn't die.
And also in this case, a complicated stew of DNA from the roommates and, as a hopping college house, many guests.
It'll spin, it'll inject the blank, it'll spin back.
News Nation getting an exclusive look inside the Idaho State Crime Lab outside Boise.
So this is the DNA casework lab.
Ready for the complexity of this case and others. The lab demonstrating for News Nation how elimination fingerprinting works for cases with a crowded home or in a car with passengers.
You can see that's a really nice print that you left on the glass.
But Idaho's Director of Forensic Services reminds the public, speedy and slick TV evidence processing is not the real deal.
We call it the CSI effect. Some people think, well, we should be able to do this, but the technology doesn't exist for that yet.
Time certainly moving slowly back in Moscow with the decision to tow the victim's car weeks after the murders.
Wherever it is they're storing them, I hope that it would be at the Idaho State Crime Lab, because at crime labs, they have actual evidence processing garages. At that scene, what did they have? They had a piece of yellow tape going around that was providing security.
One solid tip, bolstered by the careful processing of a single clue left behind. The best hope to find justice for 4 young lives.
Just fascinating to see inside that crime lab, the work that they do behind the scenes. Explain to us why this in particular is such a complicated scene.
Right. Well, I kind of briefly mentioned it in the story, but when you think about it, I mean, just look at it. It's a rather large house, first and foremost. 3 stories to it. That's a whole lot of evidence for investigators to comb through. And then not to mention just the proximity to where it is on the college campus, frat row. Obviously, some of the fraternities and sororities are just about 200 yards away. We're told that this was a place where people partied, people socialized. And so that's a whole lot of people that are coming in and out of this home, which could really muck up and blur some of those lines and that evidence in there.
And I know police are remaining tight-lipped for the most part, but do we have a time frame when more of this evidence could come back, the testing?
Well, this is the benefit of actually being able to go to the Idaho State Crime Lab, right? We were able to ask them that, and they told us that they've already processed some of this evidence and they've gotten it back into the hands of the detectives. So right now, information is coming in and they are processing new information, but obviously this could take weeks as, like I mentioned, a lot of evidence to come through.
Thanks so much, Alex. Yeah, it's just fascinating to see inside that crime lab. It's not often that you get to see inside a crime lab like that. So we've still got more to come. Alex mentioned it, still evidence being taken out of the house. You saw the brown paper bags. We got that video yesterday. This is all so active. More coming up after this break, live from Moscow, Idaho.
Coming up next, a brand new revelation from the parents of Kaylee Gonsalves.
Are you confident with the way they're investigating? Welcome back. There has been so much information floating around for the past several weeks about this case. Some of it is true. Some of it has obviously been rumors. And a lot of the talk has been focused on whether Kaylee Gonsalves may have actually had a stalker. I asked her family to clear that up.
Can you talk a little more about, a lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true?
I said this, she's a pretty girl. Her friends are really pretty. So them attracting attention was pretty common wherever they went. So I think she attracted attention, whether that's a dedicated person following her around, maybe not. I do believe that the officers looked in it and I believe what they said, that there was no evidence there.
Are you confident with the way they're investigating?
I think it's hard to say this way or that. They're obviously holding it very tight to chest, which could either be a really, really great sign or a really, really bad sign. And I think depending on not even the day, the hour, especially my dad and I, we go back and forth between they got this and kind of falling apart a little bit and, you know, really looking at specific events that have been strange or maybe should have been looked into more in our eyes.
And it really is just so heartbreaking what that family has been going through. I thank them so much for trusting me and allowing me to come into their home and talk with them. It's so easy to get caught up in the investigation, all the new nuggets that come out with things. But behind the scenes, this is really about the victims and it is about their families. The pain that is even worse because the killer is still on the run tonight. If you are watching this and you have any information about what happened here, think about those families tonight. You can stay anonymous. The number for the police is on your screen. Someone has got to come forward to ease their pain and to make this community finally feel safe again, because they don't feel safe. We are not going anywhere. We will be here covering this story. I'm Brian Entin. Thank you so much for watching this News Nation special report live from Moscow, Idaho.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to News.
There. I think I learned a lot listening to that because you forget things. You know, this was 8 months ago, and I kind of forgot about things. But I do believe they need to open their eyes to certain things and certain people because, you know, common sense has to come from somewhere. And, you know, I guess I was raised to always look at the common sense part of things. And that just isn't happening. Do you feel that? You know, I want to know your thoughts on this. You know, are they investigating? Are they still investigating? I mean, or did they drop it all and go, yep, we got our guy, and that's that. We're not looking any further. His touch transfer DNA is on the sheath. And there's theories about that I think we're going to go over tomorrow night of how that got there. Sarge has got a theory. And I think we'll go over that maybe on Rory's show tomorrow night. I don't know what Rory's got lined up, but I'm going to find out here in a couple of minutes. I got to talk to him about a few things anyway. So, yeah, leave comments down below. If you want to watch the whole video, it's under News Nation. Actually, I could put the link. I can put the link down in the description. So, yeah. You guys have a good, I think I'm putting this out in the evening. So you guys have a good evening. And Tommy Jude signing off once again. Thank you very much. I love you, subs. what am I at? I'm getting close to 400. That's just unbelievable. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, there we go. Good night, all.